good morning, or afternoon, or is it the evening right now, man? Ah, bro, I'm just not sure, I smoked this fucking crazy strain out back, and I'm just, before the speech to kind of calm myself down, and just wasn't sure how it was gonna hit me. Honestly, people talking to you like that, in my opinion, is becoming a little bit too commonplace in today's day and age, and I feel like it is a direct result of the immediate sweeping changes that have been enacted to marijuana legalization and marijuana regulation. Good evening. My name is Joseph Kleinert, and I'm going to be giving you a speech today that is pleading you to change the public perception that has been gradually shifting towards the attitude of marijuana. I do believe that marijuana should continue to be regulated and it should continue to be criminalized. And these quick and overarching changes that are happening to regulation are happening much too quickly, and we need to put a stop to them immediately. Personally, I am a user of medicinal marijuana, and it has been something that I have been prescribed in the past. This is a substance that I am familiar with as a patient and as somebody that has needed it as a disabled veteran, and it's been something that I have been prescribed as an alternative to psychotropic medication that the VA has prescribed me. So this is a substance that I personally have had benefit from receiving and utilizing. But even still, from receiving that benefit from utilizing it, I still do not feel that this substance is something that should just be willy-nilly cast into the hands of the public. As a disabled veteran that's been personally prescribed the medicinal marijuana, I feel that that gives me credibility, and it gives me an avenue to establish history, that I'm not essentially just going off of somebody else's experience and how great it could be to help. I know that that is one of the main arguments that's going to be levied against me, is that it can be a great benefit and it would hurt somebody to not be able to use it. Well, from somebody that has gained that benefit from using it, I can still say that I think the positives don't outweigh the negatives as far as overarching and sweeping changes to the laws and regulations regarding marijuana. Now, having covered that it's something that would provide great benefit to me if it was legalized, I think that despite the obvious ease of access that I would personally gain from marijuana, it should still be criminalized at the federal and at the state level. Marijuana does have a great benefit as a medicinal property, and that is all that it should stay as. It should not be pursued or encouraged as a recreational hobby. So if we're going to legalize it and change any regulations, it should strictly stay in the medical sector and on the medical pathway and not towards the recreational pathway, because this is something that is a medicine that helps people. This should not be a hobby. Insulin is my first example that I would like to utilize for why it should be considered a medicine and not a hobby. Insulin is a very niche drug with an extremely niche purpose, and it is extremely necessary for people with diabetes to function. But it serves no purpose for somebody that's not diagnosed with that ailment that is aided by insulin. Should we recreationalize insulin just because some people could be able to abuse it and have some joy for it for the sake of their own freedom? I disagree with that. I think that it's a niche drug that helps a niche group of people, and I think that marijuana should fit into that exact same niche. This is not to say that marijuana is bad in any way medicinally. It's just bad if it's inappropriately handled, irresponsibly handled, and allowing it into the hands of those who don't have a need for it would not help the situation at hand. I don't think that the penalties that are currently set in place are acceptable, and if anything's going to be changed about marijuana, that is what should be changed initially. We should focus on reducing the harm that is done from the penalties that are levied against people that are in violation of the laws and regulations concerning marijuana. However, the laws and regulations should not be the first thing that should be changed. The penalties for violating the laws would be a great first step in approaching change for the regulations and laws of marijuana. One of the big opposing views that I get with this thought process is that marijuana should be legalized and recreationalized across the board. The reason why this should be legalized and recreationalized across the board is because the war on drugs by some could be considered a failure. What they would say that it's a failure for is that it's just wasted a considerable amount of taxpayer dollars, and there are a lot of citizens that are getting sent to prison and rotting away behind bars for committing nonviolent crimes. Marijuana, despite there being people being put behind bars for nonviolent crimes, should stay heavily regulated at the recreational level. One perfect example that I can also tie to this that I feel would be testosterone and steroids. Testosterone and steroids is a substance that, if medically prescribed by a doctor for individuals that are suffering from specific ailments, can provide them great benefit and improve the quality of their lives. However, the sale of testosterone and steroids on the black market, sold to whoever may want to buy them, being used in whatever way they may want to without it being properly prescribed and monitored, can lead to great dangers. And steroids and testosterone at this moment in time is an extremely and heavily regulated substance, one that you will not find many people arguing for the widespread regulation or widespread decriminalization of. One of the reasons for this is because there are significantly known issues with abusing testosterone and steroids that can cause individuals who are abusing these substances to lash out and be a danger to those and others around them. There is currently not enough that is known about marijuana and the effects of long-term use of marijuana for it to be fully recreationalized and legalized, and to not have it be monitored and controlled in a similar way that testosterone and steroids are monitored and controlled. Testosterone, I do feel, is one of the best examples for what marijuana should be and for how it should be treated as a property and as a substance. It should not be something that's able to be obtained willy-nilly by anybody in the public, because if it is abused, it can lead to grave dangers, not only for the user, but for others around them. Marijuana should continue to stay heavily regulated at the recreational level for that major reason. And another major reason why it should stay heavily regulated at the recreational level is because one of the main oppositions that I'll get for this next reason is that it's a freedom issue. And that it's just morally wrong to try to control people's choices and control what options they have available to them. It's not exactly what's happening with marijuana, though. When there's a possibility that someone is harmed as a result of the action that's being prohibited, I feel that the moral lines can significantly be blurred. And for somebody that would potentially abuse marijuana, if it was able to be obtained from them recreationally with no limits, could potentially become impaired in some manner and negatively harm those around them. And for that fact, it does become a much more morally gray area and significantly less black and white area. Also, by not having any regulation, this means that there is a large potential for harmful chemicals to be distributed in the product. That's why marijuana needs to continue to be heavily regulated. One of the issues that's currently happening right now is individuals that are using pesticides on plants where people think that they're actually intaking the plant in the most harm reductive manner, but they're actually ingesting pesticides unknowingly because the substance isn't regulated as effectively as it should be because legalization was significantly widespread. If people are allowed to just grow in their own backyards and then in turn go and give this product to whoever they may be able to convince to buy it, you're not going to exactly know what it is that you're getting. And if you're not getting a safe product, I can't really say that it's morally wrong to block you from harming yourself. In the medical field, one of the primary things that they preach is to first do no harm. And I believe that that should also be the approach that we take with marijuana regulation and the laws that surround marijuana. Now, for the third and final point that I have, the biggest opposition that I'll get is that by continuing to regulate and outlaw, countless lives are going to be ruined for nonviolent crimes. It makes it too hard for patients as well who need to obtain marijuana to get access to the plant that they may need. And this is something that I would have to disagree with significantly as somebody who has been a personal user and has been personally prescribed medicinal marijuana in the past. I personally feel that laws should be modified and not removed entirely. If the laws are modified and the medicinal program is what is hyper-focused on, then the argument for medicinal patients needing medicine will be taken away. They'll be able to still get the medicine that they need. Regulation and enforcement needs to continue to occur to ensure the reputability of the mechanism. However, they can be modified to cause less harm, and harm reduction should be the primary goal in any single mechanism that we enact to modify the current laws and regulations that we have surrounding marijuana. I would look at the mechanisms that we enact to change our stances on marijuana similar to us baking cookies or baking a recipe. For those arguing to remove all laws in regards to marijuana, it would be akin to throwing an entire bag of chocolate chips into the cookie dough. And we may spoil the entire batch if we throw too many chocolate chips into the cookie dough at one point in time without taste testing it little by little to see if it actually will work with the recipe. This is something that we need to modify, again, little by little, because the end product is our country. And these cookies affect everyone, even the non-users. Even though people who don't want any chocolate chips, they still need to be palatable for all. And if we just make large sweeping changes and recreationalize or legalize marijuana fully at the federal level, it may be akin to throwing too many chocolate chips into a batch of cookies, and we may find ourselves in a situation as a country that is not sustainable or not palatable, simply. In conclusion, I feel that marijuana should continue to be criminalized, and it should not be recreationalized at the federal level. It should maintain in its outlawed status, but the thing that should change is there should be reduced sentencing and punishments for violations. The American experiment that has been an ever-changing recipe for the last 243 years cannot be too quick to change. And we need to be sure that we change this recipe slowly to make sure that we don't make too many unpalatable changes at one moment in time. Focusing on harm reduction and modifying laws as we compare them with empirical data should be our approach when we consider changing the legality around marijuana.